So you're telling me there's a chance. All right. I'm reading you.
It's hot out there. Let's blow them off the line of scrimmage. Hold on, okay.
Live from the RamCave, I'm Joe Tarosian, and this is RamView, the November 20th, 2024 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident? Need help? Got questions? Call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. That's one word, KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair. Having some auto issues? Get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. And of course, by Benched, the app. Never take a goose egg. Never take a zero because you left a non-starting player in your fantasy lineup. Download Bench the app today. Dominate your fantasy season. All right. So here we go. So a lot of stuff to talk about. Maybe not a lot of stuff to talk about. A lot of stuff to think about as we go in. Now, I'm going to sound like Debbie Downer here. I'm not giving my prediction until Friday. But you look at Philly. I like everything about Philly but their quarterback. Isn't that wild? I think, like I've said, I think Jalen Hurts is good. I think Jalen Hurts is a hard worker. I think he's a great leader. I think he'll do what it takes for the team. But I don't think he's a really good passer. Their passing game should be much better than it is with Dallas Goedert, the Slim Reaper, Devonta Smith, and A.J. Brown. And it's not. It's a Saquon Barkley show. And that gives me some hope for the Rams. But let's imagine the worst happens on Sunday night. Rams fall to 5-6. Here's the deal. Fog City, the 49ers, Fog City is going to Green Bay. They're banged up. You're hearing a lot of stuff about what's going on in Frisco right now in terms of health. But you know what? They've been banged up all year, and it just never seems to get better. You know, we talked about this. We said they said there'd be a playoff team. They just wouldn't be as good as they were the previous 2 years. And right now, they're going to be struggling to be a playoff team because they're a game behind the Cardinals and the Rams. In fact, they're 2 behind the Cardinals because they lost to the Cardinals and they lost to us, even though we're both 5-5. So Frisco goes to Green Bay and they lose. The Pack does the Rams a solid for the gift we gave them earlier this year. Frisco goes to 5-6, and they're in real trouble. Cardinals are going to Seattle, and what we need is another solid from Geno. And if Geno can give us a solid, and up there at Lumen Field, the 12th man and all that kind of stuff, if they can beat Arizona, then guess what? The Seattle Seahawks are back in first place at 6-5 because the Cardinals will be 6-5, but the Seahawks, by the advantage of the head-to-head, will take first place. The Cards fall to second, just one game ahead of the Rams at 6-5, but it's just that one game. It's much better for the Rams. We need the Cardinals to lose. We do not want the Cardinals to improve to 7-4 and the Rams to fall to 5-6. It's no bueno. It's not going to work. A Cardinal win and a Ram loss to Philly makes life really, really, really hard for the Rams. The Cards schedule after this week, of course, they're in Seattle this week. Then they go to Minnesota. All right. Then the Seahawks come. Division game. Okay. Some competition there. Then they host the Patriots. They go to Carolina, and they come to SoFi, so Rams can even the accounts, and then they finish the season hosting San Francisco. And what's going to be left of that Frisco team by the time Week 18 rolls around? So who's going to tag them with losses, right? The losses we need to get past them. If not Minnesota and Seattle, who else? Patriots, Carolina. You can't count on Frisco, right? So this is really important that the Rams don't fall any further back. Frisco, on the other hand, Frisco is 5-5 right now. They go to Green Bay this week and they lose. They're 5-6. Then they go to Buffalo. They're 5-7. Then they get to host the Bears. All right, we'll give them that win. But then they get the Rams, who know them. And of course, Frisco's beaten up, right? And they lose to the Rams. Then they got to go to Miami. They got to host the Lions. Then they got to go to the Cardinals. There could be 5 more losses, 6, counting Green Bay, on the 49ers record before the season ends. They could actually finish like 6-11. There's a possibility 6-11 or 7-10 that's where Frisco could wind up. Now that Brock Purdy's also got a sore shoulder. Seattle, on the other hand, is they're hosting the Cardinals this week. Then they go to New York to play the Jets, who are dying. They are dying fast. Then they got to go to the Cardinals. All right. Then they host Green Bay. They host the Vikings. They get a gift. They get to play the Bears. And then they got to come to SoFi to finish the season against the Rams. Right. Definitely it looks like there's 3 more losses in front of them. Let's say Green Bay, Vikings, and Rams. That projects them at 9-8 with a win this week. They would finish 9-8, where I think they finished 9-8 each of the last 2 years. That's how narrow this road is for the Rams to get to the playoffs. Let me skip Rams stuff here and go down to the NFC playoff picture. Okay, we got the Lions, the Eagles, the Cardinals, and the Falcons right now. Falcons are 6-5. In the 5th playoff spot, the first wild card spot, Vikings are 8-2. They've done nothing but win, right? Rams aren't going to catch the Vikings, even though the Rams got a win over the Vikings. Vikings are 7-3. They're hosting Frisco this week. They're likely going to go to 8-3, and we've gifted a win to the Packers. So Rams aren't catching them. Rams' best bet, if not the division, is for the Taxkins to have a collapse, right? And they had a rough one in Philly, but the next 2 weeks they get Dallas and Tennessee. That makes you feel all better. Then they get the Saints. Then they get Philly again, the Falcons, and they finish with the Cowboys. That projects the Taxkins to finish around 11-6. At best, what the Rams do, if they lose to the Eagles, they're 5-6. Beat the Saints, they're 6-6. Lose to the Buffalo Bills, 6-7. And let's just say they run the table against the 49ers, Jets, Cardinals, and Seattle. That means they're 10-7. That might, with some help, get you a division title, but that's not going to get you a wild card berth. That's how far you have to go to get that wild card berth. So everything's in front of them. If they can, right now they don't need to depend on many people if they could just keep winning, right? But that's the story of our life. I don't need to depend on anybody as long as I can keep winning, as long as I can keep getting work, right? So something to think about. This is the week I think the Rams will really feel the pain of that Miami loss, and that's why it was so triggering to a lot of us, because I don't think Miami's that good. Now everyone's getting all hot for Miami again. I'm not hot for Miami. Not yet. And so that loss to Miami is just one the Rams had to have. Who did the Rams have a better chance of beating? The Dolphins or the Eagles, right? We had a better chance of beating the Dolphins, and we should have beaten them. That was just preposterous what happened in that game. I still get hot thinking about it, because that could very well be the loss that ruins everything, right? Okay, so we got that out of the way. So let's talk some Ram stuff. Let's talk injuries. Let's see. Limited in practice, Neville Gallimore. He's been out for a while. Joe Noteboom, who, love and respect, but I don't know if we want to see Joe again. And Kobe Durant with a thigh injury. Did not participate, Rob Havenstein and Charles Woods. I've heard they're holding Havenstein out and that he will be playing on Sunday. And that's okay. If he's not, we'll dance with Warren McClendon. KT Livingston, the draft pick, who hasn't played a snap this year with an ankle injury, he's practicing full, but he's still on the IR. And then, of course, you've got Charles Woods, who didn't practice, and he's been banged up for a couple weeks. And then the big question came, and I knew it was coming, but I thought Cam DeSilva at Rams Wire did a really good job of bringing this up. You can only bring 8 players back from the injured reserve during the year, designate 8 to come back. And the Rams have 7 they've already brought back. There's 2 left, and they're kind of important guys. And the Rams are going to have to make a decision on John Johnson or Troy Reeder. Whoever isn't activated now cannot come back for the rest of the season. And I think the door opens for them to come back in the playoffs. But right now, what would you do? John Johnson or Troy Reeder? ¿Quién es más macho, huh? JJ or Reeder, right? John Johnson es poquito más macho, right? I'll take John Johnson. I think you're going to need him in the secondary. I think you're going to need his experience. I think right now you're seeing the best version of Christian Roseboom because he's playing next to Omar Speights. Omar Speights' legs, his aggressiveness. Now, I think Omar Speights still looks lost out there sometimes in coverage, but he's fast, right? He can move, and he can, fast covers a multitude of sins. And so my hope would be they would activate John Johnson, and we just really thank Troy Reeder, have him stick around and let him collect his paycheck and be an influence in the room, right? The Browns signed Jerron Christian, offensive tackle, off the practice squad. He was signed when everyone went down that first week. He never really played for the Rams, suited up a couple times, never saw the field, and that's good news, right? If Jerron Christian had made it to the field, it would have been a sign that the season was really bad. Rams also released punter Ty Zentner, who kicked for them a couple weeks ago in Seattle when Ethan Evans was down. They released him from the practice squad. Okay, here we go. Rams and their offensive line. Right now, we feel really good about Alaric Jackson. We feel really good about Steve Avila. Everyone's in love with Bo Limmer. I haven't heard a Creed Humphrey comment for a while. And then you got Kevin Dotson and maybe Rob Havenstein, if not Warren McClendon. And so things are shaping up on that offensive line. And things are looking good there. And then before we get to see if we got anybody here, leave any questions or such, I did want to say this about Michael Hoyt. It seems like Michael Hoyt is finally getting some of his flowers, some of his appreciation. Now, no one wants to see Michael Hoyt guarding slot receivers, right? We don't want to see Michael Hoyt doing the Tony Lilly chasing receivers down. Tony Lilly, I reference, I think it's Super Bowl 22, Broncos, Redskins, and the Redskins had that amazing second quarter, 35 points. And every time you see it, you see Denver safety Tony Lilly chasing Ricky Sanders or chasing Timmy Smith. It's hilarious. And nothing I hate worse than seeing Michael Hoyt chase a slot receiver that he got forced out on. But they're using Michael Hoyt and Grace. He's played 320 snaps this season, 329 snaps this season on the line, but he's played recently 49 in the box. And with those 49 reps that he's taken in the box or snaps, 46 of them have been in the last 5 games, and we've seen much more out of this Rams defense, haven't we? It looks pretty good. And Michael Hoyt is a guy you can move around. He's been with the team 3 seasons, or been playing for 3 seasons. He's appeared in 41 games. He's got 15 sacks. Yeah, he's got 15 sacks. And so it's good to see Michael Hoyt get some appreciation right now. Okay, let's before we move on to everything else here, let's look at some of the questions. Mr. Burns in USA expat. Joe T is all-knowing. I hope I'm all-knowing. At least when it comes to the Rams. Otherwise, you guys are going to go someplace else. Tim Burns, Noboom and Havenstein look down. What does our O-line look like? I just repeated it there, and I think the O-line looks good. And I have every confidence in Warren McClendon. The guy lining up opposite Warren McClendon this week from Philly is Nolan Smith. Remember Nolan Smith? He's their edge guy. And, remember Nolan Smith had a great workout, and there was possibility they thought the Rams would draft him a couple of years ago. I think it was in the Avila draft. And he kind of moved up in the draft because he had a good workout. Tall, skinny kid out of Georgia. Well, he runs about 238. He's had a decent year. He plays with a lot of good players. He's had a decent year, but that's a good matchup for McClendon. I think McClendon can match that, and I think that's an area. I think Jalen Carter plays to Smith's right, but that's Kevin Dotson's strength. So, man, I'd say run right into those guys, plow the road, and let's see what happens. Right? See what happens. Yes, Mr. Burns, I saw that. Dalton Knecht hit 7 3-pointers in 4 minutes. One of the biggest hot streaks I've ever seen. Yeah, you haven't seen me in my backyard, man. You didn't see me in my backyard, right? But yeah, that was pretty cool to watch. And man, the Lakers made a good move, huh? The Lakers made a really good move. And yeah, between him, Austin Reeves, if Davis and LeBron stay healthy, yeah, that could be something special. It'll be interesting. Tim Burns, how did I do this week? I thought I said it to you, Chief. I was 11-3. I was 11-3. I broke the 100 win mark. I'm 101 and 62, I think, something like that. So I've gotten on track. Five of the last 6 weeks, I've been in double digits. Reader sits. I agree. I think Reader needs to sit. I want JJ back. USA Expat, my man, thank you for clicking on. Do you think always injured Noteboom just likes collecting a paycheck? I think at some point, no. I think he's a gamer. I don't think he's a stiff. Noteboom has played well in the past, right? But remember what he did in 2022. He ruptured that Achilles. And, we see other guys come back from it. Maybe he just can't come back from it. Without Joe Noteboom, we don't go through that playoff run in 2021 while Whitworth is out. And Noteboom can play. And I felt it was really unfair. He played 4 games in 2022. He got torched by Von Miller in the first game of 2021. And even I picked against the Rams in that game because Buffalo was so hungry and the Rams were coming off a Super Bowl. But I thought that was unfair. People say he was horrible in 2022. Last year, yeah, he didn't get much playing time. He lost his job to was it Kevin Warren McClendon and Alaric Jackson. That was a good call by the Rams, and he just hasn't looked the same. Yeah, he might be just filling out his paycheck, but he's not even building a case for himself anywhere else in the NFL. So I'm wondering if he's just holding on right now. That's what I think. Tim Burns, cool to see they are honoring the Rams Super Bowl 34 team against the Eagles. Yeah, that's kind of cool. I understand. I understand bitterness. Some of the St. Louis fans, they just have to understand our pain when Rams left after the 94 season. Everyone's got pain here, but Georgia's gone. John Shaw is gone, right? There's no reason. We do have St. Louis Ram fans that watch us. There's no reason we can't just bridge this gap, come together for the common cause of making life miserable for Dallas Cowboy fans, right? Let's come together on that, and life will be good. Okay, let's go to around the NFL and other places. Thanks for the question, guys. Keep shooting them, and we'll keep rapping on those questions. Love to hear them. Let's see. Brock Purdy, shoulder soreness. Nick Bosa, hip. Didn't even finish the game against Seattle last week. George Kittle is coming back, but he's got a hamstring. A lot of stuff here. Their offensive line's not great. John Feliciano came back, their right guard. He replaced Dominic Puni, who's a rookie who played well, but Feliciano's a really good guard. But, he's got knee issues still. He's still a bit tender. And so Frisco's in trouble. I think Frisco's really, really in trouble. And I'm a happy guy. There we go. Cardinals are activating right tackle Jonah Williams, so they get their experienced guy back to come in at right tackle to help them out. Again, I missed the Cardinals. I took them for 2025. I did not think they would make their run this year. It's going to be interesting. I want to see what Seattle can do. I'm still hoping the Cardinals are going to be the Cardinals. And Kyler Murray is going to be the quarterback I've known to love and mistrust, or love to mistrust in previous seasons. And because anytime Kyler Murray is a bit like Lamar Jackson for some people, it's like no one ever wants to look at the flaws, but they do one thing right, and it's like, oh, see, he's great. I don't know. All right, let's look at coaches on the hot seat. Saleh, Allen, gone. Eberflus, Doug Peterson, Mike McCarthy finishes the season. I think Eberflus finishes the season, but I think Doug Peterson, I think Jacksonville could let him go at any moment, right? At any moment. Nick Sirianni, as long as the Eagles are winning, he's off the hot seat. And I think Drake May saves Jared Mayo. Drake May, I can't go over enough how good Drake May looked. And also if they keep Alex Van Pelt, and as long as Gerard Mayo doesn't mess with that dynamic, and they could pick up a receiver or two, absolutely. And speaking of receivers, I was talking about Jamar Chase being a free agent. My bad. I missed the fact that the Cincy had a club option and they picked it up, and Jamar Chase is under contract for a 5th season with the Bengals next year. He's making 21 rocks, which for you and I would be, Rip City. We'd be so happy, right? But, as a number 1 receiver, we're sure he wants to get into that 30 rock range with Justin Jefferson, Ty Hill, and all those other guys. And so that's where the rub is. But the contract has been picked up. The option has been exercised. So unless he really forces a major, major holdout, he'll be back in Cincy. But what I see him doing is forcing a really major, major holdout, because I think everything in Cincy is kind of going to pot. I think they're just not paying players. And they're making money. They're an NFL franchise. They share the wealth in the NFL, but the Brown family just doesn't pay. And then they got to pay T. Higgins too. Joe Burrow might say, you know what? Maybe I want out of Cincy after the year I've had. Maybe Joe Burrow in 2 years is the guy that replaces Matthew Stafford. I'm just kidding. I'm just throwing that out there. Okay, we looked at NFC playoff leaders. Let's look at AFC playoff leaders, and then we'll go to break here. But you got the Chiefs 9-1, Bills 9-2, Steelers 8-2, Texans 7-4. Speaking of the Steelers, they play the Browns. I got a note from Steeler fan Rob today, and Steeler fan Rob was saying, right after the Raven game, making the Steelers play on Thursday, it's a trap game, so I wouldn't be surprised if something bad happens. And I thought, oh yeah, typical Steeler fan Rob, greasing the skids so when his team does swallow the jalapeno, he can say, oh, see, I called it. I told you it was going to happen, right? Just really weak sauce on Steeler fan Rob's part. The Steelers need to win that game, and they just need to, because you got to keep pace with the Chiefs and Bills. If the Chiefs and Bills stumble, Bills are banged up, Chiefs are banged up, you got to win this game if you're Steeler fan Rob, right? You got to win this game because you're 8-2. You're in the hunt for home field advantage in the AFC. Now, again, I agree. Pat Mahomes can win anywhere. Josh Allen's won on the road. But there is something about, well, I guess it's not Heinz Field anymore. I don't know what it's called. I can't pronounce that name. But there's something about a home game in Pittsburgh, right? You got to win this game. If you don't beat the Browns tomorrow, I don't care if you call it trap game or not, get out of here, dude. You're a pretender, right? Knock it out of the park. Beat the Browns. You got a layup here. Beat the Browns. Take 10 days off. There you go. What's better than that? Texans are 7-4. Ravens are 7-4. They come to SoFi on Sunday to get the Chargers, and I'm really anxious to see that one. I wish the Chargers had another receiver, but yeah, that's really good because that Ravens defense is susceptible, and that's going to be exciting. Though Mid-Valley guys, the guys I used to work with, they're going to be all over that game. Good for them, huh? I'm going to be at home counting the clock down until the Rams take the field against Philly. So, but that's a big one. Ravens, Chargers. Chargers are 7-3. Ravens are 7-4. That's a huge, huge game in terms of who's got the 5th spot in the wild card. And then, of course, the Broncos are 6-5, and you got the Colts 5-6, and now you got the Dolphins trending at 4-6. We got to break down that Dolphins record or their schedule coming up. Bengals are 4-7, hanging by a thread. Jets are 3-8. They're dead in the water. Okay, we talked about everything else. Let's go to commercial. If you're tired of losing fantasy games because you forgot to check your lineup, with Bench the app, that's a thing of the past. Bench is the only app that ensures you never leave a non-starting player in your lineup. Don't miss out on crucial points, and don't be the one who forgot to bench a player on game day. Win your league, keep your pride, talk some trash, and let Bench the app handle the rest. Download Bench the app today and dominate your fantasy season. We are also sponsored. Our key sponsor is, of course, Kistler Law. We want to thank them for supporting us, as well as Temple City Auto. And I want to thank you guys for buying my books. My books are on Amazon, and they're available in both Kindle and softcover paperback. And my number one was Tangent Dreams. I just want to say thank you for the support. Great game day in the RamCave. I've kind of sold out here in the office. I haven't ordered a new batch yet, so I can't hold that book up. But thank you so much. And you're going to see when you go on Amazon that I've also written several other books, which are more of a Christian spec fiction type of stuff, dystopian type stuff. And please, as you support us there, we don't have a paywall or we're not a Patreon account. That helps us with everything we do, because my day job is I pastor a very small church in Burbank called Burbank Faith Nazarene. And you can follow us here on YouTube at Burbank Faith Virtual. And of course, burbankfaithvirtual.com and Burbank Faith Virtual all across social media. I just had a spider drop down on me. I don't know if that's good news or good luck or bad luck. Let me know. At least it wasn't a fly on my lip, right? Okay, let's see if any other questions rolled in here, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Let's see. JD Durham, thanks for, I haven't seen you for a while, JD. Thank you for clicking on. The Niners are all goofed up. They'd be lucky to go 3-4 the rest of the way. Yeah, there is something to that. When you look at their schedule and they're so banged up, yeah, they're going to need a pretty powerful starch to straighten themselves out. They're in trouble there in Frisco, and it's marvelous to see, right? Could you imagine this whole window closing and Rams got their ring and all that stuff, you know, that long run, 10, 12, whatever it was, consecutive regular season wins against the Rams. Boy, doesn't that NFC Championship game just again, as it already has, doesn't it again just make them even sicker, where they got all those wins against the Rams, but they couldn't get it in the one that counted. And then twice they gave it up against KC in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl. And of course, it's this person's fault, it's that person's fault, or Brock Purdy isn't good enough, and no one's looking at the culprit. It's Kyle Shanahan, right? He's got a hole in his game. Good coach, great coach. Obviously, he's done a great job with them. Got a hole in their game. And John Lynch is not Les Snead or the Rams. They've overpaid. They've paid too much of the wrong money to too many of the wrong players, and it just makes their life. If the NFL hadn't bumped, what was the salary cap bumped up to? 234 rocks last year, and was bumped up 21 rocks to 255, I think it was. Correct me if I'm wrong. But if that had not been one of the highest jumps, if not the highest jump ever, the 49ers would be in serious trouble. And now you don't know what kind of shape Brandon Ayuk, overrated, was going to be in. Deebo Samuel's a year older. Nick Bosa keeps getting chipped away and banged up. Brock Purdy, he needs to be paid. At some point, you got to pay him. You don't have to pay him next year, but at some point, you got to pay him. And do you want to pay him? If Kyle Shanahan's not going to be your coach in the future, whoa, if that's bold, do you sign Brock Purdy long-term because Brock Purdy fits Shanahan's system? There's a whole bunch of stuff. Trent Williams is like, I read my Bible the other day, oldest man in history, Methuselah, Adam, Trent Williams, right? He's just ancient. And at some point, some people have said he slowed down this year, and then the rest of that offensive line has got issues. It's got issues. Colton McKivitz isn't the guy. Aaron Banks isn't the guy, right? Dominic Puny's young. Feliciano's getting banged up all the time. Yeah, so there's opportunity here for both the Rams, Cardinals, Seahawks, if they could get a quarterback, to get to the next level while the 49ers take a step back. Something to think about. All right. Let's see here. Curtis Olson. Hi, Joe. First time in the chat. Curtis, thank you for joining. I hope you subscribe. I hope you enjoy being here. I hope I didn't get here too late before you left, but thank you, man. Thanks for hanging out. Please drop us a line or a question if you have one. I would appreciate it, but thank you for being here, brother. Appreciate it. Tim Burns, Bosa gets hurt like a Reuter. Oh, muscle issues for those unnatural. Oh, really? I didn't put that together. Good call there, Mr. Burns. Interesting thought. JD Durham, laugh out loud. What can you do, poor whiners? What can you do? USA expat, teams that will need new coaches. The Rams are a no-fly zone. Move on. There you go. Yeah, I don't think Shula. I don't think Chris Shula's ready. I don't. I'd be hard pressed. Again, even Coward talks about it ad nauseum, but there's a lot of truth to it. So you got to give him credit. Teams are looking for offensive coaches right now, right? Eberflus is going to get canned. He's a defensive coach. Dennis Allen was a defensive coach. Saleh was a defensive coach, right? I mean, these are not my original points, okay? But the trend is real. So I think we got a shot to hold on to Shula a little bit longer. Mike LaFleur, Matt LaFleur, I get the LaFleur brother, our LaFleur. Yeah, you wonder about that. You don't know. Maybe, possibly. You're always suspect when they say someone's an offensive coordinator for somebody like Sean McVay, but obviously it's worked out for Kevin O'Connell, and Zach Taylor did get to a Super Bowl. So, yeah, pretty interesting. Tim Burns, Steeler fan Rob has Disney Plus, but no Netflix. Pay up, brother. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, Steeler fan Rob contacted today, said he was upset about Christmas games being on Netflix on Christmas Day games being on Netflix. And of course, he doesn't have Netflix. He has Disney Plus. And it's like, really, bro? Disney Plus, right? You could watch the ESPN games on regular streaming, your Sling or your YouTube TV. Yeah, maybe he's just a little bit of a pixie. Maybe he likes Tinkerbell or something. We'll deal with Steeler fan Rob. Tim Burns, Joe T, have you seen any run stuffers in college that we should be eyeing for next year's draft? No, I haven't. I should. I've been so focused on so many other things. I just been watching the quarterbacks as much. I promise. I'll do some scouting around and I'll try to deliver something on Friday. But I'm one of those guys, so I'm all starry-eyed. I look at the quarterbacks and with that said, Shedeur Sanders, right? He's playing great ball. My only problem with Shedeur Sanders is just the attitude, right? And I know you need an attitude as a quarterback. I know you need an attitude, but Joe Burrow has attitude. But Joe Burrow had to transfer from Ohio State to LSU, right? He had to deal with some adversity, and I don't know if Shedeur's really dealt with adversity. And at some point, doesn't Shedeur have to say, "Dad, I need to go someplace without you"? Because there's all this talk about Cowboys tank. Dion gets the Cowboys job, and I'm not slamming Dion. I like what they've done in Colorado. Colorado should be getting closer and closer to that playoff berth because they're entertaining. You can see them, and they can hurt people offensively. But yeah, you build there in Colorado, and then you go to Dallas with your son. And yeah, I got to tell you, as a head coach or something, I want to know who I'm getting because I don't think Shedeur Sanders had to go through any adversity. He is so talented. He's so good. But what happens when, his offensive line's not right, which it's not perfect in Colorado, wasn't perfect last year, but Dad's not there, right? And Dad's not there. Well, what do you do? And so that's what makes me a little leery. And then the whole watch thing with Shedeur Sanders. So, yeah, I've been watching the quarterbacks. I'm a Cam Ward guy, but people are more high on Shedeur, and I understand it. Okay, looking at the Eagles right now, the Eagles are projected to be 10-5 at the start of the season. I think they're going to do better than that. They were 11-6 last year, but that was an epic collapse they had last year. Their free agent additions, Saquon Barkley, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, has been great, and Bryce Huff, who's been he hasn't been around. And then, of course, this is a good team. And then you look at them offensively: Hurts, Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. Devonta Smith's a little banged up. Same with Bryce Huff, Nakobe Dean, and Jalen Hurts is on the list as well. But he's been playing. Most of these guys have been playing. The thing that makes Philly so dangerous is their offensive line, and they just got Jordan Mailata back, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens. Lane Johnson is at right tackle, and their right guard. I've been wanting to talk. I don't know. Maybe it's Nerdsville. I wanted to talk about this today. Their right guard is Mekhi Becton. Becton was a miss by the Jets. The Jets drafted him. The recently fired Joe Douglas, the one guy he really missed on. Well, he missed on, on Zach Wilson, but he missed on Mekhi Becton. For 3 years, they kept trying to make Mekhi Becton their shutdown left tackle, blindside guy. Never worked. Finally, they just let him go. Philly picks him up. They move him to right guard, and he's having a heck of a year at right guard. It's amazing. So not only did they score Mekhi Becton, but now Cam Jurgens at center has had a great year, and he's replaced Jason Kelce. Is he Jason Kelce? No, he's not Jason Kelce, but you got Cam Jurgens, Mekhi Becton, Landon Dickerson. Their interior is solid, and then you're running out there Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson at the bookends. This team, that's why this whole team surprises me, because Jalen Hurts should be lighting up the league, right? And he's not. It's all dependent on Saquon Barkley. And that, to me, makes Philly just a little bit mortal a little bit mortal. Defensively, Jalen Carter's finally playing he's had a great year so far in the center of that defense. And then they scored. Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean are playing really well at corner. And then you throw in Darius Slay, a solid veteran. And this secondary, PFF, for what it's worth, PFF rates the number one coverage secondary in the NFL. Be a nice test if Stafford has time to go against those dudes with Nakua and Kupp, the quintessential route runners. But this Philly team is really, really stacked, and they're just not playing better. I just think they should be better, right? I just think so. We'll see, and I'll give you my thoughts on Friday. That offensive line does scare me, and in the trenches, they're really, really good. Okay, let's see. Let's move down here to week 11. You guys, again, if you have any questions, throw them at me. Let's look to week 12. I'm sorry. I was 11-3 last week. I'm 101-65 on the season after a really slow start. Caught fire. Tomorrow night, you've got the Steelers-Browns. I shared why, we're not accepting the whole, it's a trap game from Steeler fan Rob in Missouri. They need to win this one. Steelers are in the hunt for home field advantage in the AFC, right? You got to win this one. Browns are 2-8 and sinking rapidly. I thought they'd put up more of a fight in New Orleans, and they didn't. Sunday, Chiefs 9-1 at the Panthers. Yeah, we know how that's going to go. In fact, we'll see. Panthers have been playing a little bit harder, but we'll see how that goes. Vikings at the Bears. I'm taking Chiefs. Vikings at the Bears is a big one. Again, Vikings go to 9-2. They keep the pressure on Detroit, and the Bears. Can they muster up another emotional performance? I think that was an emotional performance against Green Bay. Can they muster that up? And I don't think they can. Titans at Texans in the Houston Bowl. Of course, we're going with the Texans in that one. Lions at Colts in the Greg Landry Bowl. We're going Lions. Patriots at Dolphins. I'm not going to call this the Nick Bonicani Bowl. I'm trying to work on what I want to call it. But we're going to take the Dolphins in this one at home. Interesting thing, though. Drake May gets that ball out of his hand pretty fast. Dolphins pass rush is not better than the Rams pass rush. And that Patriot offensive line did a pretty solid job. And I think the Dolphins win. But I don't know if they win by as much as people think they can win. And so I'm just keeping an eye on the Patriots in that game. I drank the Drake May Kool-Aid. Buccaneers at the Giants. Buccaneers still have a shot. They're 2 games back of the Falcons. The Falcons have opened the door for them. They get the Giants at 2-8 with Tommy DeVito in the Ray Perkins Bowl. Buccaneers are going to take that one. Cowboys at Taxkins in the Norv Turner Bowl. This is in D.C. We got to root for the Cowboys as Ram fans. Don't we want the Taxkins to collapse? We need a Taxkins collapse. I know it's an awful thing to say. It's like, oh, gosh, how do I root for these guys, right? It's like, I don't want to root for these guys. But you have to. It's like rooting for the Russians in ice hockey or something. It's like you just don't want to do this. But we need the Cowboys to beat the Taxkins to keep all avenues open for as long as possible. Broncos at the Raiders. That should be an interesting game. Broncos are really getting their act together. I like Denver in the Willie Brown Bowl. 49ers at Packers. 49ers are 5-5 and taking on water. Packers are 7-3. They need to play better than they did in Chicago, but they are at home in the Tim Harris Bowl. We're going to go with Green Bay. And then Cardinals and Seahawks in the Kelly Stouffer Bowl up in Seattle. Lumen Field, 12th man. Geno on a rise. The team's into this. They've got good pieces there in Seattle. It's about doing it smart. Someone needs to knock some sense into the Cardinals and remind them that they're the Cardinals, right? I think they've stayed at the party too long, and we want them squashed and lying stinking in the earth before this weekend is over. Nothing but love, though. All right. Sunday night, Eagles at Rams in the Roman Gabriel Bowl. And then Monday night, Ravens at Chargers. Oh, I'm sorry. That was a Monday night game. I said it was a Sunday night game. Ravens at Chargers. Ravens 7-4, Chargers 7-3. We're going to call this one the Harbaugh Bowl. And John has an advantage over Jim because John won the Super Bowl. So Jim looks to even things up. Ravens defense is not great. And that's going to be the interesting part. Chargers defense has played well this year. I think they struggled against Joe Burrow because he's a dynamic passer. And there's the rub. I keep hearing that Lamar Jackson is great in the pocket, right? They abandoned the run against the Steelers, and he threw over 30 times on Sunday. Lamar Jackson did. And but 30 times or 32 times is not 40 times, not 50 times, not sometimes what McVay's did with Jared Goff a few times where he threw 50 times. Think of that Tampa Bay game. But my thing here is that if he's good in the pocket, he's good in the pocket, and he's not great in the pocket. I just think it's fool's gold. People get all wrapped up in that. Yeah, he makes plays every now and then, but he's not a pure passer, and that's always going to be a limitation with Lamar Jackson. 7 years in, you can say he'll get better, but right now that's who he is. And it's good. He's a good leader, works hard. You love everything about him. He's just not a pure passer. And I think that's where the Chargers have an advantage. And so they've got good dudes on this team. I think, are they getting Khalil Mack back? That would be interesting. But I think that's going to be a really great Monday night game. Some of these Monday night games are just dogs with fleas, but this one looks pretty good. All right, let's see. Did we have any other questions? No more questions came in. What, guys? You don't want to ask any questions here? All right, let's look at this a little bit. On this date, November 20th, 1979, Rams put John Williams on IR with torn calf muscle. John Williams was the right tackle that was solid for the Rams from 73 all the way through 1978. Didn't miss a game. Tore his calf muscle. He had already been benched, though, and Jackie Slater had taken the right tackle spot there in 79. But John Williams didn't get to play in Super Bowl 14. Good dude, became a dentist, passed away, lived in Minnesota. Big John Williams fan. On that same day, Rams signed Bill Bain, who they had released in October of that year. And Bill Bain went on to play the next half decade with the Rams, had some really good runs there on those offensive lines with John Robinson. On this day in 1997, the Rams waived Lawrence Phillips, and the next day they released him, and we know the Lawrence Phillips story. I think he got a cup of coffee. In Miami, and then, the tragic story of Lawrence Phillips. Just looking at some games here, nothing really stands out. 2016, I remember Rams lost to the Dolphins at home 14-10. It was just such an awful game. It was just like, oh, when can we fire Jeff Fisher? It was so bad, the Rams losing that game. And then in 2022, the Rams lost in New Orleans 27-20. That was a game where Stafford, one of his last games of that season, he threw a bomb to Tutu Atwell. And again, 7-point loss to the Saints that day with a team that was devastated. You're running Jeremiah Colon, Matt Skura. You're running all those guys out there, Odie Obiche, all those guys out there. And the Rams were a 7-point dog there. Yeah. November 21st, they officially released 1997, they officially released Lawrence Phillips. In November 21st, 1979, Rams re-signed Jackie Wallace, punt returner. Big games around then. Not too many really stand out. I do remember the Frisco game in 99. The Rams beat them 23-7. I remember the Rams losing in Atlanta in 82, 34-17. And I do remember the Rams winning on November 21st, 1976. The Rams won in Frisco 23-3. And that was a big one because earlier in the season, on a Monday night game that was blacked out, the 49ers Gold Rush, which was Tommy Hart, Cleveland Elam, Cedric Hardman, and Jimmy Webb. Hey, how's that? Is that pretty good? They sacked James Harris like a half dozen or a dozen times, hurt his shoulder, and that kind of caused some issues. And the Rams lost, I think, 16-0. Monty Clark's first season as head coach of Frisco. Real shocker. Then the Rams caught fire, and they went up to Frisco, and they won up there on that artificial turf in Candlestick. I think Bill Simpson blocked a punt, and the Rams won that game 23-3. There you go. All right, I got it in. Cool. Let's see what else we got here. All right, Michael Negretti. Hola, Pastor Joe. You do a great job on the show. Thank you very much. God bless you. Thank you, Michael Negretti. I do appreciate that. Tim Burns. Rams 24, Eagles 16. Really? Do you really see that? Rams 24, Eagles 16? Yeah, again, from your lips to the football god's small g's ears, and that would be wonderful, but I just don't see it. I don't see it right now. Right now, I don't see the Rams winning, and I'd love to be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. My desire is to be wrong, but I don't know. I just don't know. Let's look at a couple things here in terms of schedule with in the NFL. You got to wonder a little bit about the Browns now. You know, they're still stuck with Deshaun Watson. It looks like Jameis Winston had a pretty good game there in New Orleans, but they're not winning. The question is Kevin Stefanski. At some point, does Kevin Stefanski just want to be there? Can he just say, hey, can I get out of my contract? Can you just let me go, right? Everyone thinks Kevin Stefanski's a great coach. I'm not slamming that. He's been to the playoffs a few times, but maybe Kevin Stefanski just wants to go, you know, hey, Barry, the GM, can you just let me release and let me go someplace else? I know, let me go to Chicago, right? Maybe I could do something there. Steelers, again, go as far as Russell Wilson takes them. The Chiefs, 9-1. We said they were cruising for a bruising. They got the bruising. And so, yeah. So I think they're going to beat the Panthers. It's just one of those games where the Panthers aren't great, and it's like I don't know how much I want to play my guys because I don't want anyone getting hurt. But then again, when you do that not to get hurt, that's generally when you get hurt. All right, scrolling down here, looking at my other notes here. Had some notes on Jared Verse and Byron Young. Those guys are just playing great ball. If you look at PFF, they don't have Byron Young weighted high, but Byron Young is a great edge rusher. He needs to hold the edge better. And then look at what the Rams are getting right now. The unsung guys, Kobe Turner has gone off the charts. And Toby Turner has gone off the charts. And Braden Fisk is playing well. And Bobby Brown, the Rams interior, is playing really well. And so it's exciting. And again, I was very slow to jump in, but you know, and I'd love to hear the explanation of it. You know, Spates has made Christian Roseboom better. He's just better out there with Spates. And so that's been good to see. A little worried about the corners. They look a little slow. And I know everyone's all up on Cam Kitchens here, but he's got the picks. You know, all three of those picks he's got were gifts. And I just worry about him in coverage against good receivers like the Eagles have. And so that's why I want JJ back. Let's see here. G's nuts. Which offense shows up against Philly? Field goal frenzy or the Puka Cup show? Depends on the game, right? If the defense does its job and things are tight, I think both teams are going to take any points they can get. And again, it boils down to, can they keep Stafford upright? I don't care how well Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean have played this year. And Cooper DeJean, all fairness, Tim Burns has been on him, pushing him like an Amway salesman since he was at Iowa, right? He's just been pushing that guy, and he's delivered, right? He was hurt early, but he's delivered. But I still think Nakua and Cup school those dudes. I really think they do if Stafford has time. And I also think Philly will rotate to help those guys out, which may open the door for Demarcus Robinson to reemerge. And not that he's been bad, but we know a little quiet the last two games, but that's okay because we've been getting the ball to our heavy hitters. But that might breed opportunity for him. Also, it might breed opportunity to go back to the tight ends, which the Rams are rotating in flux. And that's an interesting call they're going to have to make is when Tyler Higbee is ready to be activated. Do the Rams keep 4 tight ends on the roster, right? I know everyone's down on Colby Parkinson, but, you know, you didn't sign Colby Parkinson thinking he was going to be Travis Kelce or Trey McBride, right? Yes, could we have expected more? Absolutely. But I also think he was signed to do work in the red zone, and we've seen what the Rams do in the red zone. And that's not all Colby Parkinson's fault. You know, you might want to look at Sean McVay on that one. But I think this offense can. If Stafford's upright, all things are possible. Is that fair to say? If Stafford is upright, all things are possible. I just hope they don't abandon the run. Like I said, Nolan Smith is a little light there on the edge. He's going to be over McClendon or the Havenstein monster. And then you got Kevin Dotson, who looks like he'll be lined up against Jalen Carter. Now, Jalen Carter's been great, but this is Kevin Dotson's bread and butter, plowing the road. And Limmer is better than Jonah Jackson, right? So we got an opportunity here to push the rock, or at least, hey, let's see if we could push the rock upfield. So yeah, I don't know. Right now I'm still leaning Philly, but yeah, good question, G's Nuts. Tim Burns, we need an all Joe T team at the end of the year. Oh, yeah, that could be fun. That could be fun. Yeah, I used to take a lot of heat when I worked at Mid-Valley Sports for the prep teams we would put together, because we didn't look at the leagues. Because I don't know if you're familiar with prep football, but there's CIF, and then at the next level, underneath that, there's the all Rio Hondo League, all Mission Valley League, all De Anza League, all those kind of leagues. And those coaches would get together, and they really didn't pick the best players. They all bartered. Okay, give me this guy. And then you got like 5 running backs and 3 quarterbacks, and you got 5 offensive linemen, but they're all left tackles or something, And what we did at Mid-Valley Sports was, if you played the position, you had to fill that position. And we would say, do we want to go 3 receivers and 1 running back, or 2 running backs, 2 receivers? We would move it that way a little bit. But if you didn't play that position, you weren't going to be put in that position. And so we got a lot of people mad. I left a guy that was scheduled to, he got a scholarship to UCLA. We covered him for 4 years. His first 3 years, he's a beast. His 4th year, he kind of mananaed it, which meant, he just didn't really want to do the work. He still got the scholarship, went to UCLA, was a bad student, played there 3 years, and then opted out. And he had a little tryout, I think, with one NFL team and didn't make it, and his career was over. But we left him off the thing. And I took the heat for that from a lot of fans. How come you didn't have him on your all Mid-Valley team? And his coach told me that was a good call, leaving him off, because he didn't deserve to be on that. So sometimes when you put those all league and all NFL teams together, you might be. And I want to know, if this is RamView, how mad are you guys going to be at me if I don't have any Rams on that list? Yeah, how mad at me are you going to be? Okay, there we go. Yes, we know one thing. Don Klosterman will be the GM. Yes, geez nuts. Don Klosterman will be the GM. There we go. Geez nuts. Saquon is going to be a big problem. I hope we can stop him, or at least keep him from scoring. He's their guy. This is why, I don't know what everyone else is thinking. This is why I haven't, Philly's just run off a lot of wins, but it's Saquon Barkley. Can you honestly tell me, with all the stuff I've said recently about Jalen Hurts, does Jalen Hurts fill you with any fear? He just doesn't. He's got great receivers. They should be lighting everything up, and they're not. It's all Saquon Barkley, and he's the one that scares me. And we have athleticism, but now we got to find out, can we deal with the brawn of that front 5 that the Eagles have? That's dangerous. Geez nuts. This is why I never win in fantasy football. Go with my heart too much, which is why I'm setting Saquon. Need him to have a bad game. Okay, there you go. I separate fantasy and rather, I'll deal with it. To me, it's the old Spartacus line that I use a lot. When you got wine, you don't need bread. If the Rams win, it's like sweet wine, right? And I don't need the bread. But if the Rams lose, then I just got to settle for the bread. So if the Rams are winning, I got wine, I don't need bread, and I'm done. I don't care about my fantasy team. I'll set it up, and if they lose, I live with it. But what you said, heart and head, that's probably why I've never gambled. Yeah, I got a ministerial background and everything, faith-wise and stuff that's doesn't look too friendly on gambling and everything. But that's not the reason I didn't gamble. I didn't gamble, one, because I didn't know how to really read those lines, 2 under, take the dog, and all that kind of stuff. But the other one was, I couldn't separate heart from truth, so that's why I never did. Let's see here. Geez nuts. Not even their tush push is no threat anymore. It's mortal. It's not automatic, right? It's not automatic. Saquon is their bread and butter. Absolutely. And the last thing I want to say about that tush push, that's a great point you brought up, because I didn't have it in my notes, but it's been in my thoughts. They're going to get that half inch. They're going to get that yard, right? So this is my way of thinking. If I know they're going to get that yard and I can't stop them, then I'm going to shoot my 3 guys right there in the center, the interior of that trench. I'm going to have them fire before the ball is snapped. and just hit them really hard, right? Make them feel some pain. Just blow it up. Just all three of them just go, hit Juergens, right? Hit Becton, hit Dickerson, hit Hurts. Before the ball's even snapped, just blow them out and say, oh, sorry, we jumped. And the next time they line up for it again, hit them again. You get a free run. Jump it and hit them hard, right? And make them pay and make it hurt, especially if they're at the goal line, right? You can't penalty them into the end zone. If they're at the half-yard line, you know they're going to score on the tush push. Jump it, and just punish them. Make them really feel the physical pain for doing that. Is that my bad? Is that evil on my part? That's how I feel. That's what I would do. That's what I would do. Tim Burns making it. Rams not only win 24-16, Saquon Barkley will not break 75 yards. All right. Okay. I still got a bunch of mugs that didn't get sent out after the Monday night game. I'll be happy to send you a mug there, Mr. Burns. If the Rams win 24-16 and Saquon doesn't break 75 yards. In fact, if the Rams win 24-16 and Saquon runs for 105 yards, I'll still give you a mug because I'll still be really, really happy. All right, guys, I got to go. The 56-minute mark. Thanks for hanging out. Please hit subscribe. Oh, and again, I forgot. Check us out on Spotify. We've got no movement on our Spotify account. It's from the RamCave. Check it out if you can, and we would be really appreciative. All right, go Rams. I got a lunch date with Mr. Kistler tomorrow, and we're going to see you on Friday. God bless. Take care.